iPhones are kind of overpraised, and people just say, oh, iPhones are the best phone brand ever, when you can just say that about any phone. And at the end of the day, it's just a phone, right? It's just a phone. It's like that Xbox vs PlayStation stuff, right? It's just a console, right? This is just a phone. You just turn it on, you text people, you send emojis. There's no need to get mad over it and be like, oh my god, iPhone is the best phone brand, because it's not, right? iPhone.
Hello everyone and welcome back to the James Ramblin' Show, coming at you live on Friday night. Tonight's your host, James May.
Hello, welcome back to the James Ramblin' Show, coming at you live on Friday night, posted on Saturday. I don't know, man, let's get into this, right? Didn't need to review anything, didn't have anything that I wanted to review, and yeah, that's that sorted. But tonight will be interesting, because this will be the technology saga, so I'm going to do a quick rundown so I'm not just blabbering on and make it a really long intro that's just going to be incoherent and stuff like that. So the technology saga will basically be the technology version of the movies and TV shows, or the whatever I did where I talked about a certain thing another time, but I just had a different aspect of it. So we're going to kick off with my thoughts on phone brands. Obviously got iPhone, Samsung, Huawei, Vodafone and stuff like that, and then the other technology episode will be about how the internet affects teenagers, and how the internet has influenced me to do certain things. And then there will be a YouTubers and probably a podcasters sort of episode where I talk about my favourite podcasters and favourite YouTubers. So that's that. Technology. So I have my phone right here. It is a Samsung. Actually, the very first phone I got, right, was like a Samsung. Now, this is not my very first phone. As I mentioned a month or two ago about how I lost my phone, it went down the toilet, stuff like that. Yeah, that was my phone before that. But yeah, that was my phone before that. I had a Huawei, I had a Vodafone, I had a Samsung like back in 2015 and stuff like that. I think I dropped my Vodafone once before. So that's how I'll lead this in here. That's my phone history, right? I've not... The first time I had a phone was when I was 12 or 11. So I haven't had a phone for ages. I've had like sporadic phones. So I've had phone once and then another phone brand. Every time I get a phone, it's a different sort of brand. It's never the same. And so... that's why that's kind of why I know I've never actually owned an iPhone. I had an iPad, right? I've had an iPad, and then like when I tried to get back into it, right, because I got to a point where I actually the password or whatever, I was locked out of it because of the person that was actually using it. It was actually leeching off of one of my sister's Apple IDs, so I couldn't get back into the iPad. But yeah, iPhones. I've never had an iPhone before. Like iPhones, I actually am not really a big fan of iPhones, man. Like I'll go straight into this right now. So my thoughts on iPhones, right? I think iPhones are kind of just overpraised. Now this won't be any hot take or anything like that, but iPhones are kind of overpraised, and people just say, oh, iPhones are the best phone brand ever, when you can just say that about any phone. And at the end of the day, it's just a phone, right? It's just a phone. It's like that Xbox vs PlayStation stuff, right? It's just a console, right? This is just a phone. You just turn it on, you text people, you send emojis. There's no need to get mad over it and be like, oh my god, iPhone is the best phone brand, because it's not, right? iPhone is just another phone, right? An iPhone, right? iPhones are really, really expensive. Like, I'm not even joking right now. Like, iPhones are so expensive. Like, in New Zealand, right, I'm pretty sure it costed about... one of the iPhones cost about $1,000, and this might actually go beyond New Zealand, right? They cost probably a lot of money in other countries, but as for New Zealand, though, they cost about $900, I want to say, whereas I actually got this phone, right, that I'm holding right now for only about $300. And you might be thinking to yourself, that's a lot of money. Yes, it is a lot of money, but not $1,000, okay? $1,000 is a lot of money to some people. $1,000, right? $1,000 isn't a lot of money to certain people, but when you think about it on paper, right, it is actually too much for a phone, a technological device which you just text people with. Like I said, you just text people with, send all those emojis, go on to Google, stuff like that. So that's kind of why I don't like Apple, and it is interesting, this whole Apple stuff, because you had Steve Jobs, who created Apple, obviously. You've also got the iPod, you've got all of that. It's changed over the years, and yeah, there's definitely that. And I guess Google as well, right? I think Apple and Google, they're connected in certain ways, right? They just have these connections so that they can produce that kind of thing to make more products, stuff like that. That's why iPhone has milked the hell out of their franchise, right? It's like with those movies where they have 10 of them or 8 of them or whatever, just milking it out, making so much of the same product, because that's honestly what iPhones are like, right? It's like quantity over quality, right? And a lot of people are going to say to me, James, you're so wrong, whatnot, blah, blah, blah. But iPhones are so quantity over quality because they're trying to make the same thing, right? And I heard this story, right, where iPhones, every time there's a new iPhone, right, the previous iPhone gets degraded in value, or not in value, in quality. So like one would speed up more than the previous one. And with recent iPhones, they got rid of this whole feature of headphones. So you know how you have that plug right down there, right, with your headphones and stuff like that? Apparently on recent iPhones, you don't even get that. So I get the whole fact of Bluetooth, right? Bluetooth, you have it, you put on headphones and you don't need to use any plugs. But when you get rid of that, right, because people still want to do that, right, not everyone wants to use Bluetooth. So that actually made no sense how apparently iPhones do not even contain that kind of thing. So that's my thoughts on iPhones, right? Yeah, I kind of had a lot to say on iPhones. Samsungs, I actually think, yes, the same story as with Samsungs, right? Because you can have really expensive Samsungs as well. They're just competitors, right? Samsung and Apple, I should say, they're both competitors, and they're just trying to compete with each other. So I don't think I'm going to be like, oh my god, Samsung is the best phone ever, because Samsung is just another phone. It's not like the best thing humanity has created, because it is just a device that you text people with, right? That's basically just the whole sentiment of my opinion here. It's just like, it's a phone, it's something you text people with, that's pretty much it. It's not like, when somebody's mentions iPhone, oh my god, it's like, no, iPhone's bad, Samsung's good. And people say, I think I've heard this story, right, of like how people say, Android is for poor people, they can't afford the expensive iPhones because they cost so much and they're so much better, and because they're so much more than an Android device, they are equally as better, right? Just because something is more expensive than another product, it doesn't mean it's going to inherently be good, right? You could have something really expensive and that could be worse than something that costed less, right? I don't want to keep buying expensive things, and so that is why I don't try and spend so much money on something. So that argument is a bit strange. I don't know how true that is, but people just, Android is bad, right? And no, Android is actually, Samsung is actually part of Android, right? People say that's terrible, stuff like that. Yeah, there is some very, very interesting arguments that come out of literally phones. So I don't know how that works, because it's literally just a phone, right? All right, now let's get to Huawei. I actually think that's an Android device as well, right? I think it's connected to Android because you have Google Play, which is actually connected to Android, whereas Apple has the Apple Store and stuff like that, and you have your iPads that have the Apple Store as well. So I think Huawei is just another example, right, where It is just another ordinary phone, but this time, right, I don't actually like Huawei as much as Samsung, because I had this Huawei phone, right, that one that fell down the toilet, right. I remember having this Huawei phone, right, and it was so slow and the storage was so bad. It was a nightmare. It was an actual nightmare. So honestly, despite the fact that I threw that, or not threw it, but it fell down the toilet, right? Despite the fact that it fell down the toilet and I was an idiot for that, I don't actually mind it when I look back, because that phone was terrible. It was so slow. I didn't know what to think of it. It was just, oh my god. I had that for like 2 years or something, or a year or something like that. Almost 2 years, right? It was really bad. So I'm really glad I got it out of the way, because that was terrible. So yeah, that was just really that was really weird, just how that phone that I had was just, it never worked as well, because as I said, right, there's phones that don't work as well as others, because that whole Apple scheme where they seemingly make these other phones slower than the previous one, and stuff like that. And I do feel like I've been not pressured, but I've been told to get an iPhone. It's like, James, get an iPhone. I mean, a few people probably said that, but it is just really weird, right? And I just remember iPhones, right? There was this meme. I remember this meme, right? It was like in 2025. It was this weird thing, right? Of 2025, Apple's gonna have 25 cameras on it or something. It was one of those memes, right? It shows you how it is in like 2018 or 2019, 2020, right? Then it shows you how it's gonna be in 10 years' time or 5 years' time. And it's kind of crazy. I don't know how true it is, but it's really funny how iPhones are becoming really, like, they have to prioritize all these cameras, which is insane. But for marketing reasons and business reasons, they have to do that so they can make more sales, make more bang off the buck, and that kind of thing. And I think that for that reason, it makes sense why you would want to add those cameras in there. And there's also phone covers, right? There's phone covers. I have had a few phone covers. Like, I have this, right? It's black. It used to never have it on it, and that phone is literally one of a phone cover, because then your phone more money to have a camera. A time where just like could, and it was really wild how that just did it, and no idea and stuff like that. I think whole self a little cringy, like, you photos of yourself and you don't get, if you don't run right, stuff like that. Yeah, and you use a phone to take pictures and stuff like that. I think before phones, I believe it was cameras and it was all these other things, but now that technology's advanced a bit more, we're so prone to using phones to take pictures instead of cameras, because phones have become the new cameras, and phones have kind of just advanced technology to the point where they're so reliant on phones nowadays that speaking of just like being on phones, right, I have checked my phone hours before, and I have actually been on my phone for a while, which is quite crazy, because I've remember times when I've been on my phone for 10 hours, and there's some apps that I've been on for a very, very long time. Like, I've used Discord a lot. That is one app that I've used a lot. I actually used to use Instagram a lot. That was one social media where I just used that so frequently, right, to the point where that was probably the only thing I used. And I used to also use Snapchat, but I haven't used that thing since 2019 or 2020. And the reason why I stopped using it, because it was kind of cringe, and and plus, there is just so many other apps that I could be using. I don't really need to use Snapchat. There's literally 500 other apps that probably do the same thing, where you send a text to somebody, you send photos to people, because a snap is basically just a photo or a video. So it doesn't really make but for all these companies with iPhone, with Samsung and stuff like that, they have to produce this. Also Google, of course, but they have to produce all of these products, these offshoots, these apps, so then they can get more people interested, stuff like that. So that kind of thing ties into how, you have all these users and you have all these people making all these things, and Facebook does tie into that as well. Facebook is probably, Facebook is kind of taking over your little social media apps, because you have also got WhatsApp, because I think Facebook is on, but Facebook owns WhatsApp, Facebook owns Instagram, Facebook owns YouTube, I guess. Well, maybe they have something to do with that, right? I want to. This is a weird analogy, but like, well, maybe not weird, but I guess Facebook is the social media version of Disney, where they just own everything, because Disney bought Marvel, Disney bought Star Wars, Disney bought, oh my god, I can't even name so much, because they've bought a lot of things, but how you have, they're just, that whole point, the whole point there was these big companies, they have all these, the connection to the Apple, connection to Samsung, connection to Huawei, so that they pour in all these viewers and stuff like that. And I actually forgot to mention this, right? But I had a Vodafone. I think I might have mentioned that earlier in the episode. But in terms of Vodafone, right, that is kind of another phone where it's kind of slow. It's not the best quality phone ever. It was good for a little while, and then after a while, I just stopped using it, because it was definitely not the best phone I've ever had. Definitely this phone I have here. This phone is definitely the best phone I've had in a while. Never really, just phones in general. Yeah, like I said, it's just, phones are just these things where it is just, you just text people and you do that kind of thing, and I think people should stop, like, we shouldn't use phones all the time. And I actually did a speech about that, where I actually talked about the metaverse, and how it's not really necessarily to do with phones, but it's to do with how the metaverse kind of ties into that. But I will actually jump into that. I'm going to be jumping into that in probably a future episode, in this technology saga. There will be that. I this week of is still a lot of other with technology. Don't make it so just like from pub than episode, bit of now reasons. I'm trying to do a lot of things, or whatever it's been. So yeah, I definitely hope you enjoyed the episode. That last episode was very, very long. Well, maybe not very long, because there was a guest episode where it was about an hour, over an hour long as well. So that's it. Okay, that's it. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to do all that. Bye.